Good afternoon, YouTube. Fat Cat Collections back at you with another cologne or fragrance review. And today I want to talk about a new one that came out in 2015 by the House of Imaginary Authors. And this one is called Every Storm a Serenade. Now, if you're new to the House of Imaginary Authors, basically they make their colognes, or Josh Meyer, the owner, blends his colognes that are inspired by books. And this one is no exception. Let me tell you a little bit about the notes in here. I'll tell you what I smell. I'll tell you what I've heard other guys kind of say about this particular fragrance and whether I agree or not. The notes in here are Danish spruce, eucalyptus, vetiver, cologne, ambergris, and Baltic sea mist. The Baltic sea mist is your imaginary note, but I can kind of see why they added that in there or why they listed that to give you the idea, to put it in the, I guess the idea in the back of your mind that this is kind of an aquatic. And I definitely get that with this fragrance. What I smell when I first spray this, I've sprayed this, I guess, bookmark that they sent. This is a very, very fresh, slightly aquatic fragrance. It never really leans too far in either way. You have the freshness of, I guess, the spruce, which you get this pine note, and then there's like a cooling effect. I believe that would be the eucalyptus, although it's not like a menthol or anything like that. But there is a cooling, I guess, sense that I get from this, and of course you get a little bit of that aquatic. I watched a video today, and one gentleman who runs Street Sense actually described this as Christmas on the beach, and that's I think, a great way of describing this. You definitely have the aquatic, you have this saltiness, as if you were on the beach, this freshness, and then of course you have like this pine note. And to me, this is a fragrance that would be, I think, in my mind, I guess, kind of describing the Pacific Northwest. And this is a Pacific Northwest scent, and which makes sense because Josh, his company, is out of Portland, Oregon. And this one here, again, you definitely get the pine, you definitely get the vetiver, and I believe what I get from this is as it dries down, or when you first spray, you get a heavy eucalyptus and spruce or pine note, and then as that dries down a little bit, you get more of the vetiver, and you get more vetiver as the fragrance continues to dry down, and for about 4 hours or so, I'd say. When I wore this for the first time, I got about 4 hours out of it on my skin. Again, that's really, I've had some fragrances I've worn, I got 4 hours out of, and then other times I've gotten 2 hours out of it. So I think it really depends on, whether you're sweating, temperature, all kinds of stuff like that. But this is definitely a winner. I think this is one of the best fragrances that the Imaginary Authors House has produced. There's just something very, again, Pacific Northwest about this fragrance. There is that freshness of being on the beach with maybe the wind blowing and, some, like pine trees nearby. There's just that freshness of pine, the cooling, I guess that cooling kind of sensation of the eucalyptus, and of course that freshness which comes from the amber, like that salty kind of aquatic, which would come from your ambergris, and again your cologne, which cologne is a note that actually tries to mimic, I guess, the freshness or the aquatic of like watermelon, although you don't get watermelon out of this whatsoever. But this is a fantastic fragrance. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little on my wrist here, even though I have something else on right now. I like it so much, I just want to go ahead and put a little more on here, just so I can get a nice fresh whiff of it. And you definitely get that, when you first spray it, a really heavy pine and very woody. You get a very woody note. Lots of wood. And then you have that smokiness, which is kind of reminds me a little bit of a City on Fire, but nowhere near as extreme. You just have that slight smokiness, the pine, the wood, the eucalyptus, and I definitely get the vetiver in this. And then, of course, as it dries down, it starts to become, in my opinion, a little more aquatic, where those notes, those top notes kind of start to, if they are considered top notes, they don't list them as top notes, but those notes kind of settle down, and you get more of the aquatic, and I believe the ambergris is what's going to come out of there a little more. A fantastic scent. I definitely think this is one that's going to get complimented, and again, when I work before, projection's pretty good on it. I don't really like to give ratings as far as what I think out of 10. It just seems like whenever you give ratings like that, I mean, what's the difference between 8 or 9 out of 10? It's very subjective. So I can only tell you whether I like it or not, whether I think it's unique, and whether I would buy it. I think it's a fantastic fragrance. I think it's a unique fragrance. It's not something you're going to be wearing and somebody's going to be smelling like you. There's definitely, and I probably like it so much because I love woody woody, kind of smoky tobacco notes. Although this is not anything that reminds you of tobacco, but you definitely have that Imaginary Author's DNA. You have a little bit of that smokiness that you would get from City on Fire, and then you get that pine and the vetiver and the ambergris. This is a fantastic scent. Again, this came out in 2015. Every Storm of Serenade. I think it's one of their better scents, although I like all the Imaginary Author scents. This is definitely one I would like to have in my collection. Josh, thank you so much. Josh Myers went ahead and sent me these samples for me to review. Thank you very much for your generosity in taking the time to do that. I really hope that I can get some more of your scents at a later date when you come up with some new creations. I always look forward to checking your website and seeing if you're coming out with anything new. And also, I really love to get my hands on Bull's Blood, because I believe Bull's Blood is a kind of a leathery fragrance. I'm not too sure. I want to get my hands on that. So that was my 2 cents on Imaginary Authors. Every Storm of Serenade. I think it's definitely one you should have in your collection. I can almost guarantee you that you don't have anything that smells like this in your collection now. So if you have this, go ahead and tell me what you think. Go ahead and tell me what you smell. Remember to subscribe to the channel and check out the link in the description for where you can pick this up. And of course, price point on this, you're looking at $95 for 50 mils. So again, it's within your niche pricing. It's higher than your designer pricing. Although you can go to the mall, if you go to Macy's, like you're going to spend $100 on designer. So it's definitely something that if you want to smell different, this is a fantastic fragrance for you to get your hands on. Again, if you like that woody, earthy scent, remember that these fragrances definitely have a earthiness to them, whereas some of your other fragrances that you might find that are popular, like your Bleu de Chanel's, your Yves Saint Laurent's, those I tend to think are much safer, and they're more, I would think, more mainstream. You're going to have a lot of people wearing that kind of stuff. When somebody says, "Wow, you smell good. What are you wearing?" You say, Yves Saint Laurent or Bleu de Chanel. It's like, oh, cool. Not to say those aren't great scents. They really are wonderful scents, and I would love to pick up, a couple of the Yves Saint Laurent ones. But right now, I just really like scents that tend to be a little more on the daring side, and nobody's going to smell like you wearing this. Unless they're wearing this, of course. So again, definitely one for your collection. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my channel. Remember to check out the other videos on this scent. Remember that before you buy a scent or you buy a fragrance, to definitely check out other videos, because everybody has their own idea and opinion on what they smell, and you're going to be able to maybe come up with, to draw your own conclusions on, what you smell when you get the fragrance, because you can't listen to me talk about this cologne and know whether you're going to like it or not. If you do like anything woody, though, you will like this. I tend to not like, I shouldn't say not like, but I tend to not really lean towards aquatics, but this one kind of has the best of both worlds. You have a freshness of the aquatic, and then you have that Pacific Northwest, woody, pine, earthy, and that's why I think I like Ancre Noir so much, because that kind of has a very earthy an earthy vibe to it, if that's the best way to say that. So again, thank you so much for watching my channel. Subscribe to the channel, and have a wonderful day.